Hey Changemakers, Holly Rustick here with Grant Writing and Funding, and I'm here to help you grow capacity, increase funding, and to advance mission. All right, guys, so we are talking all about nonprofit strategic planning today. And that might be if you're in a nonprofit, maybe you're on the board of directors, maybe you're an executive director or a development director, and you're really wanting to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of the nonprofit that you work at for this year. Or this could be if you're a freelance consultant and you want to develop another stream of income helping nonprofits, right? So maybe you're a grant writer, but you realize that some nonprofits just aren't ready for grants, or they could benefit from other services to be more effective for their other streams of funding, or just to be more competitive in the grant world. It's nice for them to build internal capacity. So this is a great topic for you to know how to do. Now, if you have not subscribed yet to the channel, please do subscribe now, as you'll be able to get insights to all of the different things that we talk about grant writing and funding. Okay, so this is also a kind of a plus for the Nonprofit Strategic Planning Master Course that I just released online, and this is fantastic for you. It's a 10-module series with 47 videos with an average of 5 minutes each. It leads you through the entire nonprofit planning that we're going to be talking about today. There's also more than 21 downloadables and checklists, so you can just lead your entire nonprofit through the strategic planning throughout the year or over an intensive weekend. Or maybe you just incorporate one item per week in your staff meetings or one item per month at your board of directors meetings. And this is something for you as a freelancer that you can then learn, and then you can apply. You can use the templates as you're working with your clients so you can advance them in strategic planning. So take the guesswork out of it. Take downloading a million different videos and different types of templates in a 200-page manual. Go ahead and get the course today. So as we move through, I'm going to be talking about the 10 different ways that you apply strategic planning to your nonprofit or the nonprofits that you work with. The first thing you want to do, number one, is to schedule out your time to actually do your strategic planning. And like I said, this could be done over a Thursday and a Friday. An intense period. Right now it's the beginning of the year, so you could totally do this. You can do this at any time, really, but it's really nice to be able to analyze last year and get prepared for next year, right? Like I said, you could also just add this into your staff meetings, or you could do it at a monthly board of directors meeting. So it really depends on what you want to do. And as a freelance consultant, you can facilitate this in the exact same way. So you can definitely facilitate this over a weekend or over 2 days during the week or once a month, however you really want to roll it out. But you do have to prepare it and put it into the calendar that you're actually going to do this. The second thing, of course, is to have the mindset around it that this is going to work. Okay, so we're all going to bring to the table different ideas of why we're involved, why we're passionate about being a part of the nonprofit, what we want in return, and what we can really offer. So you really want to go over that. Number two, you want to conduct a SWOT analysis. And a SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So you really want to be able to say, what are the strengths in our nonprofit? What do we bring to the table? You know, strong morale in our staff, a lot of partners, a lot of grant funding, that sort of thing. And then you want to look at the weaknesses in your organization. Maybe you don't have strong morale. Maybe you don't have a lot of funding, that sort of thing. So you really want to be able to identify those items. And then the external things from your organization. What are the opportunities that you maybe have not totally jumped on yet? What are some things out there that could really benefit your nonprofit, or that could leverage something you're doing, or you could leverage that sort of thing. So you want to look at external opportunities. And then, of course, you want to look at the threats. What are the external threats that you do not have control of that could affect negatively your nonprofit, right? So different types of, we always have grants, from the federal government, and if there's a change in administration, that sort of thing, that can affect your funding. The environment, things in the environment. If you operate an outdoor garden agricultural business and then you have a big hurricane that comes, right? These are the types of threats that you just want to be able to be aware of. And then, of course, you want to say, how can our strengths actually mitigate any of our weaknesses or mitigate the threats, right? How can our weaknesses be reduced? By leveraging our strengths, by leveraging opportunities. So you really want to look at that. The other thing that's really great about your SWOT analysis is just the words that get out on paper. Right? Once you start brainstorming all of these different things, you're going to see some words that are consistent, that inspire you, and you can then pull those words and say, what are our values? Does anything from our SWOT can we pull into our values? And of course, you can use your SWOT for number 3. Reviewing and updating your mission and vision statement. Now, you may see some things that were in your values or in your SWOT analysis that then you can apply to your mission and vision, right? And you may have a mission and vision already, but it's always good to annually look at these so you ensure that you're still on track with what you're doing, or you don't need to change anything, right? Because sometimes you do need to change these, and these are fluid for a reason. But your mission is basically, maybe you're like, Holly, I don't know what these are. Your mission is basically what you're doing today. Who do you do it for, and what is the benefit, right? Your vision statement is, what are we doing tomorrow? Who are we going to serve? When are we going to do it? So your vision is much more big, audacious kind of look, and your mission is today. So you really want to make sure that those are clear, succinct, easy to memorize, right? 20 words or less. All right, so let's move now into number 4. Number 4 is really redefining your target demographic and conducting a simple needs and strengths assessment. Now, in order to really identify your target demographic, you may think that you serve all the people in recovery in your community, right? But really, when you look down at it and you start seeing who's actually coming in, who's accessing your services, etc., and who you're passionate about serving is really 12 to 18-year-olds who have co-occurring disorders or substance use disorders in your city, right? So, or even in the inner city, that sort of thing. So you really want to be very, very clear, and niching down isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? You can always niche down, get really good at what you do. Your projects will be very specific then. And then you might see that there's something bigger going on, that there's other secondary sources. Maybe there's a lot of trauma from those use, so then you start implementing a trauma project as well to reduce trauma, right? But first you want to start very narrow and then kind of go broad if you need to. And then, of course, the needs and strengths assessment is something you can simply do. It doesn't have to be like this super crazy expensive report that you do or hiring somebody for $30,000, although you can do those things and those things can be grant funded, wink, wink. But you could also just do a simple survey among, the 12 to 18-year-olds that you're serving. And then that's where you're going to find out, oh, there's a lot of trauma involved as well. Or what they really want is more access to these types of services. Or what they really want is more camaraderie among the youth. So in this way, you can really get some great information. So putting together a small, easy to fill survey is really good. Also, just conducting focus groups with maybe 6 simple questions. Bring the 12 to 18-year-olds in the room and just ask them some questions, like what needs do you guys believe that you have? And, what are the strengths that already exist in the community that you guys leverage? And this gives you a lot of information. The other good thing about doing this is it helps define the projects that you may want to roll out in the future. And it really helps you understand who are we really serving and what are we doing and are we doing it right? Because if you just say, this is a need, I just am thinking that this is a need, but it might not be. When you really start talking to your beneficiaries, you may discover that it's something a little bit different, and that is actually very common. So the other thing this can help with, of course, is your data for grants, for funders, for putting on your website, all of this really cool stuff. Now that you're doing a needs and strengths assessment, even through simple surveys or focus group, you're developing data. Number 5, resource mapping. All right, so what is that exactly? Well, that's basically looking at all of your resources and really thinking of it as partners. All right, so if you're looking at your resources, you need to look at monetary resources, and that's basically what's bringing in the cash. And then in-kind resources, what things maybe, allow you to not use your cash, but they still add value to your nonprofit. So what you want to do first is to look at the monetary resources that you have secured last year and the last 2 years before, and really say, okay, who is, every product, service, grant, fundraiser, donation, what did we get? And itemize all of those. How much was it for? Who gave it to us? And what was it for, right? So maybe somebody gave you, a foundation gave you $25,000 to run a certain project for your youth. right? Maybe it was a dietary project or a workforce project. And then you would say, okay, that was given to us in 2016, and we haven't followed up with them in a long time. So maybe that's what we're going to put next year. So that's what you really want to do. And that gives you a good idea to see how healthy is our nonprofit. Are we actually selling products? Are we selling services? Or are we just depending on grants and fundraisers? Because that's not necessarily a good, healthy, fiscally appropriate nonprofit. You want to look at all of these different streams of income and say, what can we do to do at least one thing for each of these? And that will make you more healthy because then you're getting diverse, multiple streams of income. And of course, then you want to look at what were the in-kind things. And that would be any donations of services, goods, people's time, volunteers, interns, that sort of thing that were given to our nonprofit that offset then our expenses. And that would simply just be, you could look at if your landlord doesn't charge you rent, that's saving you, and it's $1,000 a month, that's saving you $12,000 per year. So look at all of these and then say, what is our goal for next year? Who do we want to reach out to? Who's going to be responsible for reaching out to each person? How much are they going to ask for? What are they going to ask the money to be for, right? Or the in-kind donation for? And then how are we going to thank them? How are we going to show appreciation? That's really important. So that is resource mapping. Number 6. All right. So as we get into this, we also need to look at what are the goals, objectives, and activities for your nonprofit. Now, you might hear me talking about these things a lot in grants, but you also have to look at it. What is it for your organization? Do you have a goal to raise $500,000 for this year? What are the objectives? How are you going to get there? What are the activities? Each and every week, who's going to be responsible for moving the needle forward? Okay, number 7, projects. All right, then you want to identify what projects are we going to implement for this year? Are there other projects that just aren't meeting our need now? They're not meeting that target demographic anymore? Did we lose funding? Do we need to get more? Do we want to keep those going? Do we want to start something new? So what you want to look at is how much money do these projects cost that you want to do next year? What resources do you need, right? Manpower, do you need volunteers? Do you need to tap into those in-kind or resources or the monetary resources? How many people is it going to serve? What is the impact for your organization? So is it going to serve, you're going to start a residential center for 12 to 18-year-olds that have co-occurring disorders or substance use disorders in your city, right? And you can serve 300 people and it's totally aligned with your mission. So yeah, that's a low-hanging fruit. Let's do that. So you really want to look at that. So once again, how much money does it cost? How many resources is it going to take? What is the impact? What is the direct impact? And does it align with your mission? All right, then we want to go ahead and go on to number 8. And number 8 is really looking at your contingency planning and your logic model. So when we look at contingencies, we say, okay, we want to start this residential center. This is the project we want to do. But what challenges might come up? How are we going to mitigate those challenges? What are we going to put in place, right, to solve the problem that might come up? And then how are we going to make sure that this project is sustainable? So that is really important to do. And if you put a logic model to it, you can look at it in one bird's eye view. And I have more of that on the website. So go to grantwritingandfunding.com to find out that. All right, and let's go ahead to number 9. Number 9 is looking at data management. So you really want to be able to say, how are we going to keep track of all of our stuff, right? We do this stuff. I see so many nonprofits every year doing amazing things. They're busy all the time, but they never take the time to really just simply track their data. And if they did that, then the community would say, wow, you guys are doing a lot, instead of not really seeing what they're doing because the people are just busy all the time. So you really want to take the time, and I have a simple checklist that you can have for this data management plan. Right? And you ask all the questions there. It's amazing. You're going to love it. But it's basically tracking what information and data are you actually going to collect, who's going to collect it, how often, how are you going to report it, where are you going to store the data, and why is it important? Who are you going to share it with? So those are some simple things that you can ask yourself when you're looking at data. And then, of course, finally, you're going to number 10, calendar your year. So you want to spread out the whole calendar for the year and say, okay, when are grants usually due? When are the big deadlines? Because they're usually pretty annually cyclically, right? And then what fundraisers are we going to do at what time, what month, right? And then what big events are coming up? You know, if there's recovery month, that's in September. So you might not want to like put another big event there, right? A big fundraiser, or you might, because that's when all the buzz is going around. So it's really for you to look at each quarter and look at the year as a whole and say, how are we going to implement everything? The other thing to consider real quickly is who else is doing what? Are we going to be competing with any other big events going on during our big fundraiser? So you want to try not to do that, or maybe you leverage the other thing that's going on, right? So that's really important. But it's really nice to have a big view, just so you can sit down at the beginning of the year and say, this is what's happening for the whole year. And now this is the person who's going to be responsible for each task. This is our big goal. This is how we're going to get there. And every week in our meetings, we are going to say, okay, who was tasked to do what, right? And are they up to speed? And if they're not, then you can quickly solve issues when it's just bite size. But if you leave off until the end of the year and you say, okay, our goal is $500,000 this year, but you never do any planning, it's going to come to November and you say, we only raised $30,000. You know, there's no real plan. So as Benjamin Franklin says, failing to plan is planning to fail. So you want to make sure you plan. Awesome, guys. So if you want this entire course, once again, it has 47 videos, 10 modules, and it has more than 21 downloadables and checklists, plus a certificate of completion, lots of cool bonuses. Then please go to grantwritingandfunding.com. All right, guys. Also, click in the link below. All right, once again, please subscribe. I hope to see you. If you have any questions, you can email me, holly@grantwritingandfunding.com. Please subscribe to the channel and give us a like. Thanks, guys.